It is
3 to 4 mics.
With Sean's methodology is this. He wants stuff to go viral. That's it. So he shoots 7 episodes twice a week. They're
30-minute approach, basically.
Yeah, 30 minutes per episode. Like Pineda's been on there. The guy that owns Think Media has been on there. Neil Patel was just on. So he gets ballers that are like when they're in town or coming into town. He gets on there. He gets them on his podcast.
10 million followers.
Hence 10 million followers, and he's a great guy. And so I was on for 45 minutes. And it was funny because when we sat down and talked, he had questions ahead of time that him and I talked about, and he goes, do you want to talk about real estate? I go, not really. He goes, good, because real estate's not going to go viral.
Yeah.
I said, okay, you're better off being you, just saying who you are, sharing whatever you want. The conversation just kind of goes wherever. It's kind of like we're sitting at, Hank's having fucking old fashions.
Yep.
Right.
And that's it.
Okay.
And that's what we're doing.
Okay.
That's been.
I mean, if you do a podcast on mortgages and real estate, I'm not watching it. So.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
not. And you own a mortgage company,
Yeah.
and you're what, top 50, top 25 in town? Like you're up there.
We're the number 1 EXP team in Vegas, number 2 in the state.
There you go.
Chris, Nevada, and Reno's a little bigger. They got to speed by a little bit right now, but
Do you know?
off the record. Last time I looked.
No, wait, hold on. We're on the record right now. We're live.
Is this recording?
Yeah, we're recording right now.
Delete this.
Yeah.
No.
I had Mark Pattinson from San Diego,
Uh-huh.
and he's like 7th or 8th in the world, I think, for EXP.
Yeah.
He was on 2 weeks ago, and I'm flying to San Diego on Wednesday to be on his podcast.
Nice.
Yeah,
Cool.
It's the way you build your audience, because I've got a guy I'm talking to that's helping me out, is you go on other people's podcasts as often as possible.
Yeah.
So I was on Sean Kelly's on Monday. I'm going to San Diego Wednesday, coming back. Then I'm going on a guy who he has 2 million followers. He's like top 30 Apple Podcasts for business worldwide in LA. I'm going there on Thursday for the day. And so I'm taking days off. I'm paying my own way. It's just doing my thing because I love it. I love doing this.
Yeah. I mean,
to me,
it sounds like you're doing the right thing, Jeff. So it sounds like.
I love it. And, I'm open about it. I have money that I've put away. I'm okay. My mom passed in February. So money's coming in from that. And I'm like, I want to keep doing this, hopefully for Fidelity, like on a larger scale, to say, hey, we should be doing this like nationally. And I'll set the benchmark on how to do it.
Yeah.
In terms of talking to people, but it's not, well, how do you feel about the market, Anthony? And, gosh, Phil, where do you see rates 6 months from now? Suck a bag of dicks, Jeff. Really? No one wants to fucking watch that stuff.
No one cares about it.
Are so, by the way, though, we're just on now?
We're on right now.
We started?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I thought we were waiting for a start.
No, man. It's called a cold start. Yeah.
Okay.
It's just, I got it from Joe Rogan, and it's what Rogan does.
How much are you editing these down to usually?
Not much.
Oh, well,
it's all.
For the small clips.
Yeah. What happens is that we'll talk, and we'll get into stuff now, but we talk, and then Scott gets me back a 1 hour edited, there's bumpers on it and it looks good. And then I give it to my team of guys, and they pull out like really good 30 to 40-second clips.
Cool. Yeah.
That are edited.
Yeah. What percentage of that do you think of the people only see the clip versus actually?
Oh, 95, 98%. Like my dad watches the whole thing probably.
I mean,
who are you paying to do the clips? Like to do the editing? Or who are you hiring?
Austin Roberts.
Okay.
He's here in town. And I've
What's
known
it
him
usually cost
known
you
for a while.
Is it per clip?
I pay him a monthly fee that we can talk about afterwards. I pay him a monthly fee, but I give him 4 to 6 hour long podcasts for him to edit a month, and I'm pushing out now. I'm just pushing out 1 a day, but I'm going to start to go to 2 a day very soon.
Cool.
I need to start pushing out more content because I'm already building the audience. I'm getting the audience on Instagram. I'm starting to do very well.
Nice.
And it's all organic. Like there's the big thing people don't understand, and this is nationwide, but really here in Vegas, is you got a lot of realtors that are running around saying that they're social media experts and they've paid for their audience.
100%.
We all know who they are.
Right.
And the best way, and you go, well, this guy's got 67,000 followers. Holy shit. Well, no, if you look at like his reels and you see how many people have watched his or her reels, and there's 500 people.
Right. Very evident that's not
46 people.
Yeah.
Right? Where I'm like, and I've done presentations on it. I go, look at mine and go back into ever since like I started doing this in January every day. April, I started to just take off. And now I'm 2,000 to 3,000 up. But my base now is I'm averaging about 2,000.
But then you and I debate about this. We'll ask those type of agents. So what are you actually getting by having this many followers? Are you creating leads off of it?
Yeah.
Are you
Typically
using it as a branding tool?
Yeah.
No one's using it to actually grow their business. They're just using it as like a front to sell people on why they should use them.
It is for them. It's clout.
Sure.
It's purely clout for them to say that they've got, that they know what they're doing within that social media channel. But
anybody who really knows what they're doing in that channel steps in and goes fraud.
Yeah. I call bullshit, and I don't do it in public, but if somebody asks me quietly, I'll say, you know what? Let's get our phones out and let's take a look at Fern Flanagan. And Fern's got 100,000 followers on Instagram. Let's look at Fern's reels and see how many people have commented.
48.
And, if there's 48 views and 1 comment, no, you're lying. And that's what most people don't know that.
Yep.
There lies the rub is if you just put organic content out and it's engaging and it's fucking just real, guess what? Stuff just blossoms.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's it. And you're not in social media at all.
I mean, on a personal level, not really on a business level.
But business level, you're just not doing it.
No. I mean, if it is, it's only based in consumer responses and our feedback and stuff.
That's just all automated stuff.
Yeah, we're not actively paying to be in social
the ether.
media. No.
But you are, right? You have stuff going out all the time? Are you posting?
We have our business page. So I have somebody who runs that. And then personally, I know I don't do enough. I'm told
hire somebody
all the time. Yeah, I know. But I just,
hire somebody.
Me personally, it's just when I go do things like the games and stuff, it's or whatever it is, I kind of don't want to be on my phone and stuff, and then by the time I'm done with it, it's just kind of over for me. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes I post shit, but it's probably only maybe 10% of my life, if that. Probably not even that, probably 5%.
Both you guys have built a very good brand for yourselves here in Las Vegas, right? I mean, that's and congrats on that, because most people don't get to where you guys are. What digital does is gives you literally a global audience.
No, I agree totally. Yeah.
And it's just I was in Manhattan with my daughter last week for 5 days. But I know my audience. I post I'm on YouTube Shorts, YouTube long form, Instagram stories, Instagram Reels, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook Business, Facebook Personal. I'm posting there every single day.
Good.
Every single fucking day. Yep. But I know my audience well enough that when I was in New York with my daughter, it's her first time. I'm from there, and she's gonna be 14 next month. She's my baby girl. This is one of those daddy-daughter trips that will go down in history. It's to this day, it's the best vacation of my life, and she's awesome. But I documented the whole thing in a way that I did it all on Facebook and Instagram and Instagram stories, not Reels. My Reels is much more this.
Right.
Sure. That's my audience.
Yeah.
Is watching Reels. I have put kids stuff up and it's taken off, but the meat and potatoes of my audience, I know they want to see this.
Right.
These clips here.
Yeah, sure.
So that's where I posted my stuff, and the engagement went through the roof.
Yep.
What I'm doing now is we have a new rep that we hired. I'm having her, we're going to tag team some stuff. And I told her yesterday, go back and look at everyone that left a comment on all my Facebook posts and reach out to them. And schedule a meeting for us to go talk to them.
Nice. Good.
That's how you leverage it.
Yeah, it's a matter of, if you don't capitalize on, you can get a billion views. It's irrelevant if you don't capitalize.
Irrelevant,
And
Phil.
Capitalizing is different for everybody. In your case,
Correct.
It's growing your audience.
Yeah.
And if you're doing it or I'm doing it, we're trying to gain either a branding traction or at least some more clientele.
My Knight real estate group page is, very active, and that's where the majority of the followers are. Me personally, it's not as much, but I totally.
But we've always you and I've neither of us have been trying to you have your name and your title there, but ultimately you're not the person out there always. You're pushing your brand for the whole office.
I have to have my name in the title too. By the way, it's a state law, or division. Yeah.
But it's
garbage.
I'm honestly doing it. I'm having her set appointments, so Fidelity National Title will get escrows from it.
Sure,
because we will. These are people that I'm in their ether. I'm top of mind with them for another day or two. Then
they need to build a trainings. I talked to Karen and Julie and Ray and all these guys, and I'm sure you've been in these conversations.
Oh yeah.
But that they need to build a new training facility somewhere, and they need to within that space build a studio like this and have everything, and offer that for you and whoever else is going to use it, and the clients and so forth.
I mean, to me, it feels like two separate things. It's content creation, which is what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And then taking content that's now actually good content and turning it into actually, how do I use that to do whatever my plan is? Your plan might be different. It might just be building your name.
Yeah.
It might be trying to get business out of it. So those two are two different worlds. We're doing the content part now, and the best content in the world is great. But if nobody ever gets it or you don't use it for anything, it was just good content.
So let's get into content, because we'll start talking about stuff right now that will be used later on. Of anyone that you're seeing right now that's coming from out of state, looking to buy a house here in Las Vegas, where are they coming from?
Mostly California.
Is there like certain parts of California they're coming from, or is it the whole state?
Yeah, well, from the Bay Area, as an example, we're number 2 in the top 5 for people moving from the Bay Area. Number 1's Austin, Texas. 2 is Vegas. I think 3 is Orlando. 4
I think that has mostly
Reno.
to do with the fact that most of those tech companies are okay with remote working.
Well, but people can't afford to live there.
I mean, yeah.
I was going to say,
that's what it is.
Anthony, if I'm living in San Francisco and I've got my app that shows me where human feces is, which is really cool, and that I have a car, that I have a sign in the car that says, hey, the windows are down, it's unlocked, please don't break in, and they still break into the car.
Right.
Why would I want to move to Las Vegas?
If your car got broken into,
I'm just saying. No, I'm being funny. If I live in San Francisco, why do I want to move to Las Vegas, Nevada?
Well, affordability mostly, and from there's a whole bunch of other reasons. It's like you mentioned, how filthy it is there. It's a lot cleaner here. We have a better infrastructure.
Wait a minute, but Vegas is just the Strip, isn't it? Like, I thought, isn't Vegas just like walking up and down the Strip and the fat girls that look like they're showgirls and in front of the Bellagio?
It's changed in my career. I started in 2009. I used to not get to say that we have sports teams. So, that really has been the difference maker. We all know that. But that really, I think, in the minds of the rest of the population outside of Vegas, really made us a legitimate city.
It's crazy. It's weird to me when I'll hear like these Golden Knights players, and you hear them talk about. I was listening to the coach give a conversation. He was talking to somebody about moving here, and he has young kids, and he was like, it's all about the kids. Even though you're a coach and you're about to be a professional franchise and run a franchise, but you're still talking about the moving of your kids. And then he went into just how nice it's been in Summerlin, just how easy life became when they moved out here. Look at Mark Wahlberg moving his family out here and saying, I just wanted my kids to have a chance at a normal life. Yeah. Like, that guy can go anywhere he wants in the world, and he wanted to go to a place where he could give his kids a normal life. That just tells you the people who haven't been here, off the Strip, in the Summerlins, in the Hendersons, those areas are as nice a communities as there are in the country. Not just on the West Coast, in the country. An ease of life, an ease of like getting around and having everything you need within 10 miles. Those parts of this city, unparalleled compared to the rest of the country. I think it's even better in Scottsdale. Scottsdale's older to me. It's, it's got 20 years on us that we tear that stuff down after 20 years and go, we're going to build that one again. I'd go back home to Minnesota and I'm driving down in St. Paul. And St. Paul's an old town. And I'll just be like, man, why don't they tear these buildings down? These things are disgusting.
They don't have the money.
They've been there for 100 years.
That's the thing. We have the money here. Look at how great our streets are.
Sure.
You have all of this revenue coming in.
You mean you can do that without state income taxes? How is that possible? Oh, interesting.
The other thing that we have that, like, New York City has it, but something that we have that also the California does not have is our metro here. Our police force is one of they're world renowned. I went through the Citizens Police Academy about 7 years ago, before COVID, and it was 12 weeks. It was awesome.
Was it anything like the movie?
What movie?
Police Academy.
Oh my God, that's funny. That's fucking funny. I was like, what movie? It was 12 weeks of 3 hours every Wednesday night. Like, we went to the jail one time. We went out with SWAT and did out to the shooting range. Like, nice. It was awesome. They have their training facility here. They have a simulation of a casino. I have it on my phone where we went in and it was a active shooter in a casino with a hostage. He's got a gun to her head, and it's me I've got a Glock. It's orange with blanks in it, and these two girls who are also in the class with me, and they're shitting their pants. I go, just do whatever I say. You go in, there's a bar, there's a roulette table, there's slot machines.
Really?
Where's
this place at?
It is off by the airport.
Huh.
It's backside of the airport. And it was, I don't know if they do it anymore now, but it was incredible because like homicide came in and they said the week before, if you are squeamish, do not come to this class because they showed graphic pictures of like suicides that had happened here. But the training that they have is, and a lot of that is, when Route 91 Festival happened, they were trained to run to the problem. Because
obviously, it's part of that. So
yeah.
I don't know if I've told you the story. I know I've told you before. So I can speak directly to it because, and I won't give you, maybe I'll give you the story. So long story short, been there, go there all the time. So after the shooting starts, we kind of get down.
So wait. So you're there.
We're there, front right. I'm with
your
my
wife?
girlfriend at the time, now wife.
Okay.
I'm there with 8 other people. So a couple employees of mine, their spouses and everything. So we're in the front right area, closest to Mandalay Bay. And it starts and you kind of just look around and think, well, what the heck? It sounded like a speaker issue or something like that. But then clearly Jason Aldean runs off and you kind of all get down. You don't run away because you can tell it's coming from over here, but you don't know if it's a person standing on top of the fence or where. Like it sounds like it's right there. Didn't come from multiple areas. You could hear, exactly where it was come from. So about 3 volleys in, we were on the ground. And like all of a sudden, just like it felt like somebody like ran up. I was facing back away from where the shooting was coming from, and all of a sudden it felt like somebody ran up and kicked me in the side like with a steel toe boot as hard as they could. And I was like all the air out of me. And I looked at my girlfriend and I went like, I think I got shot. And she like looks at it and she's like, no, you're not bleeding. So we get up and we keep running, and it was like we run a little bit, maybe 20 yards. And I was like, she's way ahead of me. I'm like, stop. And she's like, what? I'm like, I can't breathe. And I knew right away because every time I took a breath, it would like breathe out, but nothing would come in. And it was because it had punctured my left lung. And so we like go out the back entrance, and behind there's a church. I don't know if you're familiar with that area. And then there's a couple buildings. One of them's like an escape room. So we go in there and lay on a couch, and some off-duty nurse is like, takes my shirt off. She's like, yeah, he's got shot. So they send my girlfriend out to the street to find the police officers and ask them like, hey, where should we go? And the guy's like, come lay right here on the side. We're like doing a triage here. And they had a bunch of people there that were shot right there. And so we go out, lay there, but then like nobody's coming down the street because they're all parked far away because they hadn't secured. I mean, the shooting's still going on. So like police officers are like driving down the street, like with their guns drawn, like don't know where the shooting's coming from. And we're laying on the road waiting for them to come down here. And finally my girlfriend gives up and she's like, we're just going to walk down there because we like towards Hooters, like farther down there. And so we finally walk down there and we almost get in the back of a truck. So
like north then, right?
On Tropicana?
East. No, not Tropicana. I'm on that road that's behind, where there's like a Catholic church. It'd be the road that runs, it's the road that runs behind Hooters.
Gotcha.
That runs east-west.
Yep.
So, like
there's like a hangar back there where Jet X is and stuff.
Yeah, it used to be like Czar had an office there right on.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So it's walking down that street, and they wouldn't come all the way down because they hadn't established a perimeter. So we walk all the way down, go to get in the back of a truck. There's like 10 people in the back of it. Truck drives away, literally, as we get our hand on it. Then try to get an ambulance. Ambulance drives away. We didn't know at the time it actually saved me to have those two things drive away because I needed level 1 trauma, and both of them were going to Sunrise right down the street. And then all of a sudden we heard an officer go like, and this is where we talk about the police officers. I heard an officer, or my wife goes, I could take 2. And so we turn, and there's a guy standing right there with his car, and he's going to abandon it because he said he felt worthless, and he's going to go try to drive people to the hospital. And so he puts me in the back of his back seat, and a guy sits on top of me who had been shot in the chest, and then a guy sits on top of both of us, putting pressure on our wounds. And then my girlfriend and the other guy's girlfriend get in the front seat, and boom, dude takes off. And he is driving not to Sunrise. He's going to UMC.
So was he hauling ass or what?
110.
Wow, up to 15?
They
How did
shut
you get
the
there?
entire
Do you remember?
15 down. I do.
Oh.
So imagine they're right behind Hooters. They go around where you're right next to MGM, next to Topgolf, go up through past Topgolf, up to Flamingo, take a left.
Yep.
And so like I distinctly remember being in the back seat and the guy on top of me is like screaming at me, you gotta fight, you gotta stay with me. And he's screaming at the cop to just ram the cars ahead of him. He's like, just ram them. Because they were stopped at a light and he's trying to get around them and everything. Just ram them. He said, I'm a cop too, just ram them. And so poor cop who's trying to like get me there as fast as he can, but he went way farther away. And when he got to the 15, Allie, my girlfriend at the time, told me, she's like, they had shut the whole highway down. We were the only car on it going a million miles per hour. So we get all the way to the hospital and we pull into to the hospital and they immediately pull me out and they usher her and anybody who's not shot away. And then they take you in, they lay you down, but they don't have like rooms for everybody. So they put you on gurneys like down the hallway. And I was like laying next, like on a gurney, and there was a guy across from me that was shot in the chest. And like, I always tell him like this doctor just randomly walks in and he's all nonchalant about his like work. And he kind of stops at me. Well, rewind back a little earlier. They were like, well, what faith are you? And I'm like, well, I'm Lutheran. And they're like, okay, hold on a second. And all of a sudden, to me, I knew I was injured, but I didn't know how injured I was until that guy started reading me my last rites and doing the whole pray for you, so in case you die thing. I didn't thought that's like what you see in a movie.
Right.
And then when they're doing it with you, you're like, whew.
Yeah.
Like I couldn't even focus on what he was saying because it took me off guard that like he was standing right there doing that for me.
No doubt.
And so I was so uncomfortable that like right at that time he had just finished and that doctor was walking down and he kind of stopped and like looked at me and checked my vitals. And then he's like, he's going next. And I remember thinking, like, you got to take the guy next to me. He's got shot in the chest.
What do you think was the time frame from when you got hit to when you got
from
to
the time
UMC?
I got shot to get to UMC? Because we didn't wait, because we didn't get in the back of those two cars.
Right.
Because the officer took maybe 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And so there are people who were sitting right on the road waiting that died right there waiting.
Oh, I'm sure.
And so ultimately, my wound didn't exit. It went in and splintered off, which is probably the worst case you want to have because it could go into multiple different things.
Right.
So that guy tells me he's next, and I'm like looking at him like I think that guy next to me should probably go, and he's like, no, he's next. And then I woke up 3 days later, and I was like, you can only imagine when you wake up. I remember counting them down, them counting me down, and then waking up 3 days later, and all my family's there. And I'm like in the ICU, and I'm like, what? You can only imagine. You guys all knew. 3 days later, I'm like, what happened? Because 20 minutes in, you only knew there was a shooting. You didn't know any details other than that.
There's no space in between going to sleep and waking up. Huh?
Yeah.
I've been in surgeries where I was out for several hours, but not like
it was
days,
whatever, 2.5 days or whatever it is. But it's like, I mean, it felt like I just went to sleep and then woke up. And it's like, why is my brother from Colorado here? Like that didn't make, like it didn't register for a second for me. And so it ultimately, they end up cutting you all the way open. Literally, long story short, this doctor ends up being somebody, I'm glad I didn't see his name because I would have known him. He ends up being a person from Minnesota, about a mile away from where I live. I know his whole family. He know his dad, his uncle worked with my dad. His grandpa went to school with my grandma and grandpa. Like we know. I went to school with his cousin. I mean, he would have went to my high school had we had hockey. We just didn't have it. And so I'm so happy I didn't see his name. It would have made me nervous. Like my parents right away were like, "Do you know who your doctor is?" I was like, "Who?" He's like, "It's Dr. Dickwood." I was like, "What?" I was like, "That's his name?" I didn't think he's like, "Is he related?" And like, "Yes." I'm like, "Holy crap!" So the guy grown up in Minnesota, right by me. I knew all the people he knew. I just didn't know him. And then he went to Miami, and then just had come back to Vegas, and had just passed his oral exam to be an official like ER surgeon. And that's the guy who did my surgery. And so literally that guy cut me from my chest all the way down below my belly button, and literally held like every organ in his hand, my organs in his hand, to make sure they didn't have holes in them and stuff. So I ended up losing my spleen and part of my colon, and I had a punctured lung and a bunch of other stuff. But I got really lucky because I have the biggest piece of the bullet's about a centimeter behind my heart. So it's like, you got to be very thankful when you get through that, and then you got the right people in the right places. And
did they get everything out?
I mean, no, I still have the bullet in me. I still have tons of fragments inside. You just can't. It's harder to go in and get it if it's that close to your heart than it is anything else. And weirdly enough, the officer who dropped me off, I'm trying to find this officer, right? So we knew he had abandoned his post. And so we're like trying to find out who this guy is. And all of a sudden they start releasing all the police footage. And so I start watching all the footage,
Like
all the body cam
yeah.
footage. Because I'm thinking, I'm going to find this guy. I mean, I'm talking about thousands of videos because you got hundreds of officers, and then each one of them have different parts.
Yeah.
And then they had cameras all over the place from atop of Mandalay Bay. So I went down that rabbit hole, which turned into a lot of watching, and found finally this. I could just tell that he was parked in the spot where we got in. And all of a sudden you hear him go like, "Man, I feel worthless. I'm gonna take some people to the hospital." To his like assistant, who was like a new person, like, "You wait here. I'm gonna bring some people." And then you see on the body cam me walking with this other guy who was helping me and my girlfriend. And it's like,
wow,
that's me. So fast forward or rewind it back. I found, as I told you the story, like where my girlfriend goes out and talks to that officer. Have that video now too. When the officer, I'm laying on the sidewalk, comes over and looks at me, I have that video on there. When Officer Dobbins, who's the officer who drove me to the hospital, I have that video. Everything I knew and I could see in my mind's eye, I now can see because I actually have the video of it happening, which is insane to think. Because when you see my girlfriend go talk to, like you hear my girlfriend on the phone, we're driving 110 and she's trying to call in a panic my brothers and my dad and my family to tell them we're going to the hospital. Like, it's different when you hear it audio of a person calling your family. Like it gave you chills. Like, oh man,
oh, yeah.
Like, and it's crazy. So I find this guy, get a hold of they have me call like the precinct or whatever. And so he's like, "Yeah, I'm the guy." And completely great guy, just like laid back, like doesn't want any shine or anything. He's like, "I actually went back to the hospital after I dropped you off because you had like filled up my back seat like with blood." And he's like, "I wanted to go check later in the night just to see it, like after everything calmed down, like, hey, did that guy make it that I brought up here?" And they wouldn't tell me anything. He's like, I assumed you died because they wouldn't tell me anything at all." And I was like, "Well, I mean, I don't know what you want me. I mean, I don't know what you do for a guy like that." So you're like,
"Yeah,
can I give you a loan? Like, I mean, I'm a lender. Can I give you like a free loan?" He's like, we're actually looking at buying. And I'm like, "Perfect. Let me give you my address. You can come on down to the office." And he's like, "I think I have it." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Yeah, I think I was down there already." And now immediately I was like, "Oh, wait a second." I go check my database. I'm in the hospital from October 1 till basically the end of October. So almost like 30 days. He's in my office on October 12th doing a pre-approval with one of my loan officers, walking around Las Vegas, putting in offers with an offer letter. Doesn't have that person's name on it, has my name on it.
Wow.
And he was trying to find out who I was, and he had a pre-approval letter with my name right on it.
Wow.
And he didn't find out about this till November.
I have goosebumps.
That's,
I mean, and so I was like, it blew my mind. He came in, I was like, he brought the letter with him. And I was like, "That you have my name on this." And he was like,
wow.
like taken back by it. He's like, because he was trying to find out what happened.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't get nowhere. And this was a month and a half later, or even longer, that before I finally got him in to realize that. So, I mean, it's weird the way things work like that. And, he's become a friend, and, he and the surgeon both came to my wedding.
Yeah.
You met them. You met them. So,
great guys.
You got to have those right people in place. But having watched all those body cam footage videos, I will say that it'll change your opinion on people in general. And the reason I say this is, you think most people are kind of like looking out for their own interest until you watch that video and you realize the amount of people that come past the officers in the middle of shooting and go, "What can I, hey, I'm in the military. You have a gun? I can have it." And they're like, "Can't give you a gun. You've been drinking."
Yeah.
But go stand over there. And if anybody comes around the corner shooting, tackle them. They might have probably heard like 8-10 people volunteer for what now I know is a suicide mission. If somebody really, granted, we now know the person was up above, but if they were on the ground walking around, you just volunteered to go stand there and tackle them if they come around the corner.
Yeah.
And people are volunteering for that left and right.
Yep.
So it's crazy because when you watch that, it's one of the worst things that ever happened in the city, if not the worst. It's also the best look at just how good this city is,
right,
both officer wise and just in general human beings, the amount of help. Because I'm in the hospital. I can't do anything. It blew my parents away. Like they're from Minnesota, Christian family. They don't think of Las Vegas as a wholesome family place. That changed after this.
Yeah.
Because, the amount of people that came to support them at a time when their kid needed the support and it didn't help me, it helped all my family. Like literally I got last weekend, when the Knights won, I was sitting up in Hyde and I saw Wayne Newton there and I was like,
oh, cool.
I was like, I got to go talk to him. When I had to talk to him because I remember my family telling me, do you know who we're talking to? We were just talking to Wayne Newton. He was sitting in the ICU waiting room. There's only about 10 rooms in the ICU. So he's sitting in there and he's going around, him and his wife, to all the families of the people. This is the day after the shooting, so I wasn't even awake. And giving him his cell phone number and saying, if you guys need anything, just call us. We'll do it. And sat and talked to him for like 20, 30 minutes.
Wow.
And I went up to him and told him this. He started crying. And he's like, man, you're alive. And it's like, man, it isn't about me in this case. It's about like, you didn't even know people, like how it affected them. That was one of the first things they told me when I woke up was, do you know Wayne Newton was out there? He was just sitting and talking with us. I was like, so it meant a lot what you did for my family because, you just gave them a reason not to, think about the bad stuff at that time. So, it's ultimately all of the aspects of Las Vegas that came around after that happened. I think it all made us feel like that we were always a community, but not like we were a community after that.
People move here from California because it's cheaper and there's a lower crime rate. But once they are here for a while, people stay here because of what you just said. People stay in Las Vegas because of your story.
Sure.
I've been here 11 years. I have friends now that I'll have forever here that are amazing people. Fuck real estate.
Sure.
It's just all walks of life. The coolest part about living here is that you can be friends with somebody who is making minimum wage and they're doing their thing, happy as a clam. You also be friends with someone who is a multi-millionaire. And a lot of times you won't even know it.
Yeah.
But there's just very run-of-the-mill, put their pants on one leg at a time, super cool people. That's Vegas.
We do attract a lot of the cool, laid-back people who maybe aren't the uppity type. Like, I don't know what it is about. We're still a Western town feeling type of thing, like where it's not as, highfalutin. Even when you're out in certain neighborhoods and rich neighborhoods, it doesn't feel that way. And like you say, I've been to plenty of places where there's very, very wealthy people where I know a lot of the people hanging out there aren't very wealthy. And those crowds all somewhat mixed.
People are cool here. I think there was officially like 200,000 people at the parade at the Golden Knights parade, and from what I heard, there wasn't one incident. I don't even think there was one arrest.
How awesome is that?
That's like pretty rare.
Have that in LA. They'd have riots.
It was
burning.
hot. Exactly.
How many times can you think about? And this is any professional sports team when they win a national championship. The fucking town is burning cop cars.
Right.
But they've never had anything to be happy about most of the time for years. So here we're like, life is that good that we're normally that happy.
So true.
So for us, we're like, another thing to be happy about. Yeah. We're going to go celebrate it. Not, this is our first time to be happy.
Everybody's winning here. That's the thing. It's like, I think that's what it is. And I consider
except for everybody in the casino.
But
they're not from here.
But people who live here, I mean, it's pretty hard. I think you'd have to really try hard to live in Vegas and be poor, like poor, like
there's a lot of opportunity.
What real poverty looks like. There, you have your homeless because, obviously that relates, I think, more to mental illness issues and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't really know anybody in Vegas that's doing that like bad. Most people live in a pretty decent place.
If you would have told me, obviously I've been here since 2006. So late 05. And if you had told me that the strip would shut down and there would be nothing open for even a month, I would have told you, well, we are going to be out of business then, because that is where all of our business comes from in the mortgage world. And then that happened in 2020, and it was the busiest years you've ever had, which should tell everybody that there's a shift. Like, it's important. Hospitality is important here. It's our main thing. It's not the only thing anymore.
Right.
And so all of the things we've done well in this city to bring people here are the reasons why we have a pretty strong economy that can handle shutting the strip down and still be able to operate there. Because you couldn't get a loan if you were working at one of those properties. You don't have a job right now.
We went from January of 2020, I think it was 1.8 million passengers inbound to McCarran, to Harry Reid. In April of 2020, it was, I believe it was 70,000.
Yeah.
Came in.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Talk about an ass puckering.
Right.
What I tell people that aren't from here is that we took a 18-year-old Mike Tyson gut punch.
Yeah.
And recovered. And recovered from it.
Thrived.
That's the thing is, thrived, but let's look at now. Because you have interest rates are double what they were a year ago. And there's inventory is a challenge. So what do you say to folks that are, say, looking to buy a house? Like the people that are looking to buy a house right now, there's an avatar of them.
I think it depends on where they're coming from. Let's just use, for example, California.
Let's say they're from California.
Those California people are getting it more house at half the price. So the rate-wise is really relevant to how much they're buying. So let's say you sold your house in LA for $2 million, which might be an average house out there, and you come here and you're going to turn around and buy $1 million house. Well, I don't know what your rate was on that one, but once you go half as expensive and you've cut that in half, and your rate's double, you're going to be around the same payment, if not less, because we have a lot lower property taxes. So,
and a much better quality of life.
Yeah. So, right. I mean, ultimately, are there still people buying? Yes, you can look and say in any market right now with high rates, people are still buying. I'd say that
we're representing more buyers this year than last year in my office.
Sure. That first quarter.
Think we've done way more loans with you guys with first option this year so far than we did last year at this point, right?
Yeah, we had
I have the numbers.
As partners, we go over probably better than most real estate lender partners do, go over the numbers in real granular detail about even like where are we spending ad dollars, what's working, what's not working. Because then if you get multiple people looking at it, he might point some out that we didn't see. We might point some out he didn't see. And we used to live in the real estate or in the radio advertising world. So it's something we used to do to the tune of 50, 60, 70 grand a month. So for me, it's great to have a partner who looks at those numbers, because then we both dig in and say, well, let's spend some more right here. This is really working out right here. But the first quarter of this year, I sent to him, I was like, that was the best quarter we've had between our offices. Like as
That's
much,
awesome.
It may not be the best quarter in general, but
I'll take this over 2020, 21.
If we can get rates down a little bit, which they're going to come down, and we can get some more inventory, it doesn't have to be huge numbers, just a little bit on both sides of that. You'll see a mini boom.
Well, and plus it thinned out. I knew too, it was great. It was kind of a perfect storm when we had the correction, in the second half of last year, because we were able to pick up more Zillow zip codes, because a lot of them were getting dumped and they're hard to get. And our conversion rates, double digits on that. And then, when the license renewal came, we got a lot of the dummies out. And that just made more market share for the rest of us who actually know what the fuck we're doing.
We needed to cut out a lot of realtors.
We need some more thinning of that. But
are you guys? I want to go back for a second. You talked. I know you're a numbers guy, right? And
he is too.
And Dad is my porn. Like I'll take Google Sheets over Pornhub any day of the week. Like that's my jam. I love rows, columns, and cells, man. Talk nerdy to me. Let's do it.
Yeah. No, we track all of our all of our numbers on everything.
I want to press you on that. Are you actually, like, let's say people are coming from California, are you tracking zip codes, streets, where they're coming from?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I have about 70,000 people in my database. He's got several thousand too. A lot of that database we share because we're co-marketing partners.
I mean, we probably got
so he has access
500,000
to most of this database, and so we eat, sleep, and breathe it.
Are you looking at what their behavioral patterns are psychologically to then target them with ads?
Yes, but also, so I literally this week just signed up for a 1 year contract to try a company, you probably heard of them, called Reevaluate. And, so we're going to give that a shot. I got to fill you in on that. It's pretty cool. So
you're spending money, just get ready. The end.
No, not that. No, not that part. Not that part.
Well, that's part of it. But,
all right. But just what it does.
Let's go back to fucking
we're scoring the leads,
1 October
basically.
for a second. Maybe that'd be more comfortable.
I do have a crazy story about that, though. So, about 1 October, one of the weird stories I have. So, we stayed at Mandalay Bay. We always do.
Oh, yeah. I know what you're going to say. I love this.
I'm a gambler. And so, I was down, I want to say it was Friday. And it was Friday 10:30 or something like that. And I was gambling and I won a jackpot in like the high limit slots area playing video poker. Well, then fast forward, I was watching all those videos, and some of the videos were like the video of him walking around, the shooter walking around in Mandalay Bay. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, here's a video of him winning a jackpot. And I'm like, wait a second, that looks so familiar. And I look at the time and I look at my phone, like I took a picture of the jackpot. And then I look at the machine and I look at where my machine was. I was like, that's the same machine I won a jackpot on. And then I look at it, that's 30 minutes after I won a jackpot. He won one 30 minutes after I won one and left that machine. He played the same machine and won a jackpot too on Friday.
Wow.
So
on
you could
Friday,
just,
so like 2 days before.
No, I mean, the concert
right?
started Friday.
Yeah.
So, I mean, ultimately, it was Friday morning and it didn't start till the afternoon.
Right.
And so he was probably rode the elevator with him. He probably wouldn't even known any difference.
Oh, definitely. Good chance that with this story. And it's crazy too. I know the story because we've been friends for a long time. And I knew actually, I saw that night on Facebook, he had posted that he was there. And then as soon as I saw that it happened, I texted him and he didn't respond, of course. And, then the next day too, I was like, oh man, I didn't know yet, but I'm like,
you knew.
I think something
you didn't know,
bad.
but you
I knew. Yeah, it was crazy. But that doctor too was, it was like a Sunday night, graveyard shift too, right? So it's like he's younger. He'd only been there a couple weeks.
Yeah, I think he'd been a little over a month, couple months.
So just the chances of
Again,
that.
just passed his
God.
oral.
Yeah.
He had to do an oral test on top
Really
of a
cool
normal
guy.
test, and so he had just passed that within the last, I think, 48 hours.
Yeah.
So it's like you got a guy who's relatively new, cutting you open, and not just cutting you open. I'm talking like from like a long cut.
You got filleted, brother.
Yeah.
You got filleted like a fish.
Well, when you wake up, and I'll show you pictures later, and you're not closed. When I woke up, it wasn't closed. Like my stomach was still open because they needed it to heal from the inside out. I could look right in and cough and see my stomach like move.
God.
And I was like, I remember thinking like, why is this still open? Like, what is going like, and they're like, oh, they have to heal it this way so it doesn't get infected and stuff. So like you wake up and you're like, from going to bed thinking you have like a whole hole back here to like waking up and the majority of your pain isn't back there. It's like right down your stomach and you're like, what the heck? You guys couldn't have just went in there. You always think it's like you go in and pull the bullet out like an old Western. It's like, no, the bullet goes in and goes into like 40 pieces.
Yeah.
Were you ever scared during the whole thing? When by the time the shot started to the time you wake up, later on at UMC, were you ever really scared?
You know what? I wasn't, I told you earlier, like I wasn't scared in the midst of it. Your adrenaline's going so hard that you're just like trying to get out of there. And I don't know if you know like that you're dying, you just know that like your breathing's getting really shallow and that you're getting kind of cold and stuff. And in my case, I wasn't like bleeding a ton because I was shot high enough in my back side here that like it was bleeding inside and it was filling up inside. So I only got scared when that, like I told you, when that preacher comes over and did the last rites thing for me, because that's when it went from like I'm hurt to like holy crap, I could die. Like that part to me, like I'm a big boy, I can handle myself. The only things that ever get to me are like how it affects my family, and like parents. You talk to I know we were just talking about your dad. It's like when you have parents that like are like tell you their stories, that affects me way more than it affects like my own. I mean, we had the healing part to think about. Like we had to spend months practice or getting back to walking and doing things that we didn't have to think about, like the aspect of like shooting. And a lot of people struggle with that, like being able to go outside and stuff. We didn't have that. We had something to at least focus on, which is like getting back to normal. So I only got like, it only hurt me when I hear about like my parents and stuff. like having to I was reading an article, like my little brother coaching at Princeton at the time, coaches football. Now he coaches at Rutgers, but like they wrote a story how he was like sitting there like trying to determine whether or not he should fly out. And the coach is like, what are you doing? Go. So like, you don't know what it's like when you're not there, but how it affects them probably affected me more than anything else.
It's the trauma of the event.
Yep.
And how it's got that butterfly effect with how it affects you as the primary, unwittingly, participating in the thing, but then it spreads out to, your girlfriend and family and everything going, holy shit, I think, Phil's at that concert. Holy shit, Phil got shot. Holy shit, Phil's at UMC.
I mean, the first people here were her dad and her sister had gotten here right away.
How long have you guys been dating for, by the way?
We've been dating about like a year and a half, maybe.
So you knew like this was it. You were like, were you at the
maybe
point
a year, maybe a year.
Was it love?
Yeah.
Be honest.
Yeah, it was at that time. It was a year.
So you were love, and
it was a year in. Yeah.
Met the parents, like the whole thing.
Our parents hadn't met yet. Our parents met in the ICU waiting room. That's where they met. Because my parents are in Minnesota, hers are in Sacramento, and so let me tell you, that's a stressful thing. Anytime you date someone and your parents meet, easiest parent meeting I've ever had.
No doubt.
Because I don't remember any of it. All of a sudden, they were just friends. So
that'll bring people together for sure.
People afterwards were very wanted to make sure it was like, well, you guys don't just hurry into marriage because you went through something like that. She and I were never like that. We knew like that's not why we would get married. It was an affirmation of what we knew, which is, she'll wipe my butt if I'm shot and I need somebody to wipe my butt type of thing. And I do the same as for her. But, it was definitely made the meeting of families a little easier. When you're meeting over that, everything else does not matter at all.
Yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 42.
That's awesome.
So that would have been 37 at the time. That's 5 years ago.
I've never heard your story.
Yeah. It was a lot of twists and turns. A lot of things have to happen. And like I said, if I get in the back of that truck. And by the way, when you watch the officer's video, Officer Dobbins, he walks up and talks to the people in the truck like, hey, you guys going to Sunrise? And then he goes over to the ambulance and asks them where they're going. You can always tell people die in there because they're like grayed out in the video. And then as soon as those drive away, it's just crazy that she told me she heard him say, I'm going to take two. And then you hear it on the video.
Wow.
So someday I'll put together a speaking presentation where I can tell the story and then go, this is what it looked like. Because it's totally different when you play it in your mind's eye. But once you don't have to play it in your mind's eye, it's really different. Like, it's like I could go back and watch what it was like. I can't see, even to the point where I can't see where I get shot, but there's a camera above Mandalay Bay facing Route 91 where all the people are. I don't know if you've ever seen the video where it's like shows everybody running. It's from way up above, like up where the club is up there. And so it zooms in after the shooting starts. And I found us, but I can't find where I get shot, but I find us after I got shot as we're running and I stop her to say, hey, I can't breathe. Like, I can see us in there. So like almost the whole thing I have on video from that point till when I get dropped off at the hospital. I mean, the officer takes me out, puts me in, and then the guy who was holding our wounds, never saw him again in my life. He's like flustered and he's like talking, because it's crazy when you have those things. It's like you're talking to him like first point of view, person point of view. Yeah. And he's like shaking. He's like, man, thanks. He's like, oh man, I'm a cop too. And I think it was like it said Ohio or something like that. He's like, oh man, you shaking. Guy walks, sits down. Officer Dobbins has to drive away. I don't know what happened to that guy. He probably was here from out of town at the concert, jumps in the back of a car, not hurt, jumps in to help two people that were in the back, me and the other guy that was shot in the chest.
Wow.
To put pressure on our wounds.
Do you have him on video?
I do.
There's a very good chance I could help with that.
I'll get you a picture of him and we can find, because
there's a very good chance, Phil, what we could do is take video of everything you just talked about that you have and weave it into your story right now and push it out. Because if I just had 2 million people watch one of my clips from last month, guess what?
Yeah.
Sure.
We could do that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's
that would be cool. Like to find that person.
Yeah.
Like that's.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
And that guy didn't like, I mean, I've never had a person scream at me the way that guy screamed at me, because that was the guy in my face. Like, you gotta fight. And I wanted to be like, I can't fight. You're like sitting on me. I can't breathe. But I didn't know I couldn't breathe because it wasn't him really. It was a situation. But yeah, I mean, that car ride I'll send you the videos. It's an interesting one because, you just to hear my wife now talking to people like frantically rewind back when I was laying on the side of the road before she came out to go like talk to the officer, where do we bring him? She called her dad and said, Dad, I'm in the middle of a shooting. And I mean, you can only imagine you have a daughter. She calls you in the middle of it. You hear the shooting in the background.
Jeez.
And she hangs up and doesn't call back for like a couple hours because she's in the middle of trying to get people down for me.
He was probably already on his way, huh?
Her dad hopped on the worst place ever, police scanner. Well, that's
what I did.
If you heard the police scanner that night, it sounded like World War III.
Oh, yeah.
He had his daughter calling in a panic and then hopped on the police scanner and had to just sit there without hearing back from her. It would be I have a daughter. I have 2 daughters. It'd be worst nightmare where you feel like you can't help your kid.
I was in Disney World with, at that time, my wife and 2 kids at the time, Izzy, who was from my wife's first marriage, and then Alex, who I took to New York City last week. We're at Disney World, and we come back to the condo we're staying in, and I'm on Facebook, and I see it said active shooter at the Flamingo. Like, what? At the Flamingo? And then active shooter at New York. It was all over the place, right?
Everybody took it from
everyone. And so then I go and did the dumbest thing ever. I went because I have a lot of friends in law enforcement. On the police scanner, I listened to the initial Metro team that was going up the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And before they put the flashbangs like around the door, they changed channels or did whatever they did. But listen to that whole thing. And I'm crapping my pants because I was a first American title at the time and I had friends that were there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm texting them going, are you okay? Yeah. Are you okay? Are you all right? And they're like, yep, I'm good. I'm okay. And so it was, but it pales in comparison to your story, but it was terrifying. And I was interviewed because I'm from upstate New York, the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle in Rochester, Jeff DeVeronica, I went to college with him, calls me and goes, hey, I know you weren't there, but can we interview you?
Mm-hmm.
And I was one of the people interviewed, front page news. And one thing I said was, people don't understand how resilient people that live in Las Vegas are.
Sure.
We bounce back like nobody else.
Mm-hmm.
And
granted, a lot of the people there, even I know that I'll be remiss to leave out the fact that of those 8 people we were with, I wasn't the only one that was shot. 2 of the other people were shot too. So one of my employees' brothers, he was the first one to get shot in the arm in the second volley because I'll never forget him looking at us, and his name's Gabe, and saying, I got shot, and like looking at his arm was just mangled. We're like, you just got to keep running. Like you just in your mind, you don't think. And then another one was one of our other friends' mom, who was like older in the 70s, and she they both survived, and they both were out relatively early, but it was very resilient crowd in general. Some would say some of them were dumb, standing up, just being like, screw you. But they were also probably drunk at that time, so they probably didn't know any better.
Amazing.
But yeah,
well, thank you.
The best of the city, believe it or not.
Thank you. It's really, and we've got to wrap it up, but it's an insight as to the resiliency of people that live in Las Vegas.
Sure.
And we, and like we said before, a lot of times people just think of it as the Strip, and that's not it at all. There are real people here and we care about one another deeply.
But we're really good at being a melting pot places, because that country concert, the vast majority of people aren't from Nevada at that. Like if people talk to me and they'll be like, you were one of the people shot, seriously injured from Nevada. That's like unicorn. Like there's everybody, they're either from California or they're from somewhere else. They all went back home. So, it's kind of cool that like Vegas is a very good place to have a melting pot of different states, different types of people, and that's a good example of what the whole city is like, is a good melting pot of everything.
I love it. Thanks, guys.
Yep.
Absolutely.
This has been awesome.
Pleasure.
I appreciate it.
Yeah. No. Good being here with you guys. Love hearing that story too, man. I've heard it like a few times, but every time I hear it, I feel the same way. It's just crazy.
Yeah, I'm gonna put it together. I'm gonna get together because I can get
I've
that.
Seen
I can
these
still get
videos.
the leather.
He showed me the stuff.
We'll talk. I can help with that.
Yeah.
I can help with that.
You should definitely do that.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Cool,
Absolutely.
Man.